everyone, and welcome to the Atomic Cinema Experiment. I am Peter, and joining me, as always, is Tara.
Greetings, citizens.
And it just so happens that she's, borderline got Ripley hair, which is perfect for the occasion. I'm wearing my Weyland-Yutani shirt because it is Alien Day. Happy Alien Day, everyone. And beginning a tradition for the next 6 years, if my math is right. Unless, see if they release a new Alien movie though, in like 2 years' time, we're going to have to just do the rest of them before the new one comes out.
Oh man, I forgot about Covenant. I've never seen it.
Oh, what a finale to this.
I have something
Tara gets to watch.
To not look forward to 6 years from now.
Tara gets to watch Covenant for the first time at the end of all this. But yeah, it's Alien Day. It's also 70s month, which is just a nice happy coincidence. If let's say it was 60s month, we'd still do Alien for today because it's Alien Day.
Yes, this was always in the works.
But it just happened to be 70s month, which is perfect because Alien came out in 1979. We will start spoiler free if anyone doesn't know the plot of Alien. But we'll give you a warning before we get spoilers. And also, I want to mention that you've been having episodes 2 a week for the last little while, but this is actually the first one we're recording in like 3 weeks. We've done a couple of Twilights, so we've seen each other, but like this is the first episode of the Ace we've done in a while, so it feels kind of nice to be back and exciting to dig into a movie. It's good stuff. So here we are. Alien is a simple tale of a ship from Weyland-Yutani who's just, hauling some oil through space. Imagine a truck on the highway, Route 66, US of A. You got a truck, they're carrying some goods, but there's a distress call. There's a beacon that says, no, wake them up out of cryo sleep. Because, I mean, in my head, of course, all truck drivers are in cryo sleep in the US.
Breaker Charlie.
Wakes them up. There's a beacon coming from this planet, this moon, LV246, right? And here we are, or 426, sorry, it's Alien Day. I should remember that, it's Alien Day. 426. Well, hold on, the problem is it's only Alien Day if you write the date like Americans. If you write it like I write the date, it's actually not Alien Day. Alien Day is actually in June? No, there can't be an Alien Day the way I write it.
No.
Nah, because there's no 42nd day of it. Yeah, so no, it can't be.
Once again, America comes out on top. We're the best.
So, yes, they get called in, they investigate this crashed ship of unknown origin, they find an egg, someone gets infected, and an alien ends up on the ship, on the Nostromo, which has 7 passengers, and a cat named Jonesy, which looks not unlike my cat Firefly that I'm holding right here. Good cat. And that's the gist of Alien. It is essentially a monster slasher movie where they're killed off one by one until you get to the final character. I don't think it's a spoiler to say that's what the movie is. That's just what it is. But yes, so naturally, this is a class. This is a biggie. Every so often we get to a movie, it's like, okay, we did Terminator, for the first time, and it was like, okay, this is a big one. It's a milestone episode, a milestone movie. Because so many of these movies we come in here and we're like, oh, we got positives, we got negatives, we weren't so hot in this one. This is Alien, which we've both seen numerous times. So I'll ask the question, but I feel like I know the answer. Tara, how do you feel about Alien?
I mean, I like it. I mean, yeah, you watch it and it's the reason the genre is kind of justified to exist. It's great. It's what you want from a science fiction movie. It's what you want from a horror movie.
Sure.
I don't think there's anything that has been before it or after it better designed than maybe the Alien itself.
I can see that.
It's so grotesque and beautiful, and I think it's I don't think there anything even comes close to the xenomorph design as far as just quality and how alien it looks.
We're going to talk about designs. We're going to talk about everything. I think obviously we both love the movie, right? To get out of the way, it's basically perfect, and we'll get into why it's perfect over the course of the next probably 2 hours because it's Alien. So people always say that Star Wars is the start of modern science fiction, which is actually kind of ironic when you actually look at Star Wars and realize that it's more of a fantasy story, just happens to be told in a science fiction wrap, where, it's got a wrapper of science fiction, but it's a fact story.
But there is a bit of Star Wars influence in Alien.
Oh sure, I mean, hell, the reason why it get made, I didn't rewatch it for this, but the 3-hour making of documentary that's on a lot of the DVD and Blu-ray sets is phenomenal. The Beast Within, the making of Alien, the one for all 4 movies in that set are all well worth watching. They're all great for different reasons, all very really in depth. And it was basically a case of, after Star Wars, they sent in a lot of scripts. Like, everyone was looking for science fiction scripts because Star Wars was this huge hit. And, I'll talk a little bit what I happen to know from the various making of stuff about the Alien script and how different it was from the movie and so on. But what the point I was going to get at is that Star Wars is often seen as the start of modern science fiction because it was such a huge hit and it inspired a lot of people. It brought Star Trek back. Star Trek was, there was going to be a TV show. It gave us the motion picture. It gave us the motion picture. It kind of set off things on course. I arguably, I would say it's a false thing to say because Star Trek existed. I think Star Trek, if I'm looking at the genre, to me, Star Trek is the start of modern science fiction in the way we think of science fiction. But
I would agree with that. But Star Trek has that real crisp, clean look.
Yeah.
I need to say something, and you're going to go forever. So
sorry, I don't mean to hog it. Tara, feel free to block me at any point, because I know I'm going to go
Star
on
Trek's
forever.
Usually my go. That means go, Tara.
Because I will talk forever.
Star Wars was the first one that really took science fiction seriously and made it feel like this world always existed. It had that lived-in feel, which I think Alien borrows from also.
Yeah,
I mean, it has totally different designs, but it has that look and feel of
it feels lived in.
Just workers in space and everything's kind of falling apart. But
and there's a lot
they would fall apart.
And there's a lot of little things. I actually think Alien does it even better than Star Wars, and I'll talk about why. There's just little things. For example, just how rough the landing the shuttle is on the planet. Like that, it doesn't feel like an easy thing. Like they're really struggling. It's shaky, and it's kind of it's like landing a plane where it's a little bit shaky and it's not necessarily a smooth thing. Just little details like that. But the point I was getting at, though, is that Star Wars is seen by many, at least in terms of movies, as the start of modern science fiction. And I think that Alien kind of fills in this role where only 2 years after Star Wars, it came out and said, it can also be dark, it can be mature, it can be R-rated. And I think, to me, and what I love about science fiction, Alien's what kind of invented my favorite type of science fiction, which is, no, we can be dark and nasty and we can be gritty, because Star Wars is kind of gritty. It's got that lived in thing, like you said. It's got the lived in, and that's, I guess, it's an element of grittiness to it, but it's still a very sort of adventurous, fluffy kind of tone, right? Star Wars is it's an adventure story. Alien's like, no, we're not going to hold your hand. We're not here to give you a happy ending and a hero that saves the day. Like, no. This is desolate. You're in space because it's terrifying and you're alone. The poster even says, in space no one can hear you scream. It's perfect for the movie, because that's kind of the point. Is no. You're alone and you're screwed, and there's nothing you can do about it except maybe use your wits just to get through it. And that gives us the character we're going to talk a lot about later. So, yeah.
I imagine so. Yeah, well said.
Thank you. Yes. There's so much to get into. Before we get to spoilers, we can talk about design. We can talk about all that stuff. So I guess the first thing I want to talk about then, in terms of the design and direction, I'll say, before we even get to the Alien, I'll say, what do you think of the ship, the Nostromo, the design of the man-made ships? I guess we'll start with.
I guess I love the interior of the Nostromo. Everything is always leaking. It feels very industrial. It gives you a good sense of who these people are. They're just, people that people who work in factories or have blue collar jobs. Or
I think the word you used there that I think is perfect is industrial. It feels industrial through and through.
The actual design of the Nostromo, it's kind of cool, but it looks like a floating building. It's got 4 stacks on it, and it's a bit confusing because it doesn't look like anything else we've ever seen.
Even though it's not exactly what this looks like, I always kind of looked at a floating oil rig. It looks kind of like a floating oil rig to me.
Yeah, I mean, that is sort of what they are, right? They're mining, they're miners or something. They've got minerals. Yeah,
they've got resources from somewhere that they're transporting back to Earth.
Yeah, something. I don't know. It's a bit unclear, but
it's not important. It doesn't matter.
it doesn't matter. Yeah, and it's yeah, I love all the interior stuff. I can take or leave the exterior, to be honest. I think it's fine. It's very striking because it doesn't look like anything else. Like, this is not the Falcon, you know. Well, it's not the Enterprise. There's no like propeller thing to make it fly through space.
I think that's what makes it work, though, is that it isn't exciting. Like, it's not something designed to look cool. Like, if there's a complaint that you could make about a lot of science fiction, is that it's always some cool shit. There's always this cool design. And the argument, I mean, Connor's argued this with me before, that, well, that makes sense because people who build cars want them to look sexy and they want them to look as cool as possible. So it's realistic.
Well, that's because people have to buy cars, though.
Yeah. So, yeah. But that's a good point, is that this is not a purchased, vessel. This is a industry vessel.
And it's also, it kind of puts you in like a timeline of when this is, even though it's like some vague future. But
there's a year, actually, I'm sure. I don't know what it is off the top of my head, but there's a year.
I don't know either. But it's also like, okay, this thing could not have been built like on a planet and then shot into space. Like, it was probably built in space. So this is like, it feels like not too distant future, but it's actually probably pretty far in the future.
Yeah. So, according to the early screenplay, it's apparently meant to be 2087. For some reason,
I guess maybe not too distant future.
Yeah, I thought it said it in the because at the start of the green, at the start the green text comes up and it says, mining vessel, crew 7, blah blah blah. For some reason, I thought in my head that it said there, but apparently it's not said in the movie explicitly. But apparently it's maybe 2087, which. It's interesting because it puts it at just over 100 years for when the movie was made. 110 years, give or take.
Yeah, that feels about right, though, from what you're getting in the design of the ship.
Yeah,
like,
I can see that.
For where, for where like the Apollo missions were going and where people were, thought we would be by now.
Yeah.
In 1979, like if you kept going, like, yeah, maybe we would just be mining distant worlds.
Yeah, I never realized it was set probably soon after we were probably going to die. It's just like if
so bleak way of looking at it.
Actually, if I remember, I remember. So, yeah, that sounds right. Actually, that year sounds right, and I'll tell you why. Because the start of Prometheus, not the main part of the movie, but the start, there's like a little prologue scene. Mm-hmm. Not the one where it's like in the ancient times and it's the engineer, but like, there's a prologue scene at the start of Prometheus, and it comes up saying 2089, and I remember chuckling because if I live to that year, I'll be 100 because I was born in 89. So the fact that this is set right before then, which is kind of what the events of Prometheus are supposed to take place right before, actually makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. I don't like that movie very much.
Oh, now do I. But we will have things to say.
That was the only thing about watching this movie now is that I see the Prometheus scenes while I'm watching it and I go, oh.
Now, I have this thing where basically, like, anything that comes like so much later, like it's very easy to separate it in my head, where it feels more like an expansion. Like, I don't want to quite call it fan fiction, but it kind of feels that way, where it doesn't feel like it's even though Aliens was just completely made up after the fact. It wasn't like Aliens was planned. James Cameron just came in and had an idea and did it right after Alien. But like, for some reason, like, even though 3 and Resurrection aren't anywhere near as good, like, they still feel like part of the same set of movies to me, whereas Prometheus feels like this weird add-on that came decades later that feels like an optional.
Even Resurrection, I saw that one in the theater and I remember thinking, oh cool, a new Alien movie, but I don't know, like, it's still, I don't hate Resurrection. I don't think it's a bad movie. Yeah, but it's easy for me to separate that one also.
Oh, for sure. I mean, 3 as well, because 3 is such a downer, and like I think it's very.
It looks so different from the other movies.
Yeah, it's very easy to just like get to the end of the Aliens and go, you know what? In my head, that's the end of canon. Yeah, that's the happy ending. We can just move on for the lives.
Yeah, and I don't hate 3 or 4, but they do feel like too. I don't know, like straight to DVD movies or something.
The problem is though, is the Alien and Aliens are like 2 masterpieces. So anything that came after, like, there was no way it was going to be a hat trick. There was no way. It was impossible.
Yeah.
the deck was the deck was stacked. I'm trying to say against whoever it was, and it really was against Fincher, because Fincher's obviously a good director. But here, we're not here to talk about Alien 3. We're here to talk about Alien.
We will eventually come back in
2 years.
2 years.
So Alien. So yeah, the design. I really like the interiors as well. I like the exterior well enough. It's the industrial nature, all the chains hanging, the water dripping, all that stuff. I like that it does, like, the engineering
so much
deck.
Condensation. Spaceship.
Yeah. The engineering section, I love that it is this dark, like, it feels like they're at the bottom of like a, I don't know, like an actual ship. It feels like they're in the pit of like a ship with all where there's very little light. Like, sure, the main decks are all these brightly lit white hallways, but the sort of big, it almost looks padded, like walls, for the most part. But then you go into where the other characters are working, where Parker and what's his face, Parker and Brett are working, and it feels like, oh no, down here it feels like the engineering deck. This feels like, and I'm not critiquing Star Trek here, but in Star Trek even the engineering section looks very clean and very and that's a choice. But I love it in this. It's not. I love it in this. It's not. It still feels like a gritty, grimy, cogs and shit and whatever.
Well, it also feels like the difference between like being on a military ship where everybody's job is to keep everything meticulous and clean and neat versus being on an oil rig or being on, I don't know, a civilian ship. Well, the rules are a bit lax.
There's no discipline, because I mean, Brett and Parker are constantly like bickering and saying they want paid more, and they're quite quick with the wet.
Yeah, they feel a bit like the enlisted versus officers, I guess, but also they just feel like civilians who are maybe being underpaid a bit.
Yeah, they're definitely going for that, and it's good stuff. And then the design of the alien stuff, the alien ship with the big cannon and all that. I guess this is the start of. I have to warn everyone here. There will be a lot of talk in this episode of
tidbits.
Yes, if you're uncomfortable with the fruit and veg, as it were,
then this movie is for you, because you will feel uncomfortable the entire time.
I think there's because I always remember thinking the cannon looked like a big dick, right? I always remember thinking that, but because obviously the first time I watched this, I was younger than I probably should have been, right? But I remember,
you don't really think about that stuff.
Yeah, but I remember like watching it, I think probably for the first time in like DVD, because I got the quadrilogy box set in 2003. Which had all the 3 hour making of documentaries and stuff, which were later ported to the Blu-ray. But I remember getting that and watching all the movies in that set, and I think it was in that time, so I was about 14 when I got that. And I remember
a very important year.
Yes, and I remember watching Alien, and there was a realization as they were walking through, and they're in their spacesuits and they're walking through the big sort of tunnels in the ship, and they walk out at the end of it and I go, that's a vagina.
This whole ship is just layered with vaginas.
That's a goddamn vagina. How did I never notice that before? Probably because when I watched it for the first time when I was 10, I didn't know what a vagina looked like. I mean, it's really quite simple. But like, it's really, I was like, whoa, this is weird. What's going on? But everything is like everything in the design, the way like even if we're not talking about phallic parts, like even the way that the walls are lined with, like, it almost feels like the inner of a rib cage where there's all these like lines sort of like going up, all these ridges. Everything feels like it
feels very organic. Like nothing feels, or it's like a combination of like something that's alive and something that is man-made in a way, or made by something industrial. But it is like, does make you a bit uncomfortable. Like everything looks like a sexual organ.
Yeah, all of it. It's really cool, especially even like the face hugger. Like I suppose we're shifting to the creature design now, but the face hugger, when you see like the bottom of the face hugger when they're examining it, it's like, yeah, there's like some clear, there's like a gross vagina like sort of like on it. Like, well,
it's very fleshy.
Yeah, very fleshy. I have to,
it's made out of like oysters and other parts of like sea creatures.
I have to say the effects work of building that, it looks very good. Like it looks like a living thing.
Yeah.
So
I think it looks different than the one in Aliens.
Yeah, well, it's just Stan Winston came in and sort of redid it a little bit.
Yeah, but I think they both are equally like very overtly like that's vagina.
Yeah, well,
The one in Alien has the little thing that against the glass that makes it a bit more. The one in Aliens, I mean.
Yeah, that makes it feel a bit more
positive. That's trying to like go.
that makes it a bit more penetrative. So it has this. It's almost like a combination of like the end of it's like the tip is like a vagina, but it's like stretching out and trying to penetrate you like a penis. So it's like not that most penises do that on their own, but like that's kind of what it's doing, right? Because essentially when you think about what a facehugger does, it's essentially raping its host. Yeah, it's impregnating. It's it's kind of a form of rape, but you don't really think of it that way because you just think of the monstrous horror of it, but it's essentially what's happening.
Yeah, and I understand why it makes why I think it's more uncomfortable for men than it is for women to watch, believe it or not, because of this reason, because it's not something that men really think about, but it's something women think about, not all the time, but sometimes we're just put in positions where we're like, oh, I got to be careful. And this movie is like putting men in that position.
Yeah, well,
facehugger is gender neutral.
well, that's the thing. Like horror movies, because this is equally a horror movie, right? I think that's very clear. Yeah. The first one is certainly. Horror movies typically will often have a lead female character rather than a male character because typically, for the right or wrong reasons, they're seen as more vulnerable, and therefore you can sympathize with them more, you want to root for them more, and it makes the bad guy scarier. But alternatively, the argument is also, but if you have, because the whole idea of Predator, and we'll talk about that someday as well, but the whole idea of Predator is it's a slasher movie, but instead of having a teenage girl run from the Predator, it's a team of the biggest, baddest, toughest assholes you've ever seen.
Macho men you could ever think of.
And that, in theory, should make it even scarier. Now, I don't actually think it works quite that way in Predator. Predator is amazing, don't get me wrong, I'm not dissing Predator, but I don't necessarily think it makes me scared in that movie. It just makes it more of a fun action villain than it does make me scared as a horror villain. Whereas I think here what you're saying is kind of right. I think the idea of like Kane essentially being molested by this alien entity
and impregnated.
Yeah, it's creepy. It's creepy in a way because it's not something, because even in Predator, like, okay, like this thing can beat the shit out of Arnold, but Arnold still may have a chance of punching back, right? He may still be able to physically fight back. You can't physically fight back against this thing once it's impregnated. It's in there. You can't get to it. It's inside you. It's violated you already. You can't get out. It's all these things. And in fact, one of the big stories of the script is that the original script by oh god, I forgot his name.
O'Donnell.
Dan O'Bannon, and Dan O'Bannon, Ronald Suchet, who wrote the original script, is that the original script was terrible, right? If you watch the making of stuff, is that the original script is garbage. It's like all the characters have like Zathor is one character or something. No, I'm just making that up. But it was all these sci-fi names, and it was filled with sci-fi gobbledygook where they kept talking about like every device had a unique name and everything had its own sci-fi name, and it was like a nightmare to read.
It's kind of Star Trek-y.
But no, but worse, like the worst possible fanboy, like filling it up with his own language nonsense you've ever heard of, right?
I see.
Right, it's the complete opposite of what's Alien. It's the complete opposite of what Alien actually is, which is all these natural everyday characters in this situation, right? But basically, the producer or whoever, like, was saying all this terrible script, terrible. But he made like this other producer read it. I can't remember the names in this situation, but there was one guy at Fox made this other producer read it. It's like, read, no, keep reading. It's like, get to page 162 or whatever it is. And he's like, why? Just trust me. Get to page 162. Page 162 is a chest buster. That moment alone is what convinced them this needed to happen in some fashion. The script needed to be, coerced and like molded into something better. But this is like, no, we need to do this because of this scene. It was this scene that convinced them. So the idea of this horror and this like, this brutal, like, we'll talk about the scene itself and make, we go work through the movie, but beautiful, disgusting, violating, everything about it is violation. The entire life cycle of the alien. And we talk about the facehugger and the crab legs and the vagina and all that. And then you got Penis Head, which is the main xenomorph alien, right? You've got the big thing, and even not only is the head like a penis, then the mouth that comes out is like another penis. It's like a wow, everything about with teeth, yes. I have to wonder, the people who made that horror movie Teeth about the woman with the teeth in her vagina, I wonder if they were watching Alien and said, that's a dick with teeth. I've got an idea. Was it the opposite?
I've seen that movie.
Was it the opposite movie? But no, really, the design is great. And obviously the suit didn't look that great, so it's shot in shadows. Ridley Scott makes a point of not showing too much of it. And
right, there is one scene where you can see a bit more of it, and it's not my favorite. Like, it's a good scene. It actually, I agree. Like, it is a decent jump scare when it happens, but like every time I look at it now, I'm like, I don't like the hands.
Oh no, actually, I like that moment you're talking about. There's the only moment that I am taking out of the movie a little bit, because I can see how kind of like goofy the suit looks, is more right at the end. There's a couple of shots towards the end, where I'll just say it's spinning. Yeah, I can see the goofiness a little bit in that, but like, at that point I'm so invested it doesn't matter. Like, you've already got me hook, line, and sinker. Like, yeah, at that point you don't have to win me over anymore. But everything else is so beautiful and immaculate in the most disgusting way. Everything feels real, and like you say, so wonderful stuff. Yeah. I can't say enough good things.
I love the design of the alien ship and how, like, sexual it is, and it looks like a floating carcass that's made of metal, but in contrast to how industrial the Nostromo is too. Like, when the astronauts, I call them astronauts, but because they're in their suits, when they do enter the ship, it is clear that this is something we don't understand. Like, it is truly alien. And I don't think anything has ever come close to the designs from this film. No, like, people I agree. Maybe are trying, like Captive State, but...
You have to get your digging at Captive State.
I think maybe, like, the Predator face is a pretty great design. The rest of the Predator is basically human, but... it's okay. Like, Terminator's a really cool design, but he's also just or skeleton made of metal.
But to be fair, Terminator, though, he's not supposed to be alien. He's supposed to be based on humans.
I just mean, like, that design, like a cool creature design, I don't think anything's really come close to what we get here. I mean, maybe just the alien queen in the next movie. Spoiler. But look at a new version of Alien, and she's cool.
Yeah,
but
no, good stuff.
That's about it.
What was I going to say? I forgot. Don't matter. So the design stuff is wonderful. Music is great. Jerry Goldsmith. It's a very subtle score, actually, that I have appreciated more. I think that the older I've gotten, the more I've watched the movie, I think I appreciate it more as I've had time with it and really sort of pay attention to the notes. The Blu-ray actually has like an isolated score track on it, which I might one day actually sit down and finally just I'm just going to sit down and watch it without the dialogue, without the sound effects.
Do you like the end credits song? It's a bit more hopeful. I don't know if I like it.
I guess, yeah, I hadn't really thought about it.
I always thought the end credits song was a bit weird, but it's more of like a romantic theme almost, and like, I guess, yeah. I guess it's just the whole, like, we've gone through this journey and it's over. We can finally relax, and it goes kind of a sweet score. But I don't know. I've always thought it was a bit strange.
That's fair.
But I like the score. Like, the score's fine. I like the opening theme a lot.
Yeah. So no, music's great. Directions, like, honestly, like, Ridley Scott is, he's made some duds in his time. He has. I mean, some of them in the same franchise.
Yeah, he's a real coin flip of a director.
But see, when you give that man a good script, or even in this case a simple script, arguably, he'll go and make it look the best thing ever. He will go and make it look like stunning visually, like from start to finish. And I think that's what he achieves here. Is that this movie looks phenomenal.
Yeah.
And I've often said that, like, this is essentially a B movie, but it doesn't feel like a B movie because it's treated with the respect by someone who decided, no, I'm going to treat this like it's the biggest thing ever. I'm going to put the effort into this like I'm making, like, the biggest Oscar contender I've ever done. And, it's the visuals that does that. It's that sort of care of detail, the designs, all that stuff that accomplishes that. And then you have the cast who, and let's face it, the characters in the movie aren't, for the most part, that deep or interesting. They're kind of simple. They fall into their, what roles they need to play. And I think it's a testament to the actors that they're, they just play them like natural characters so that they feel like real people. Mm-hmm. It's not like you get, because you get almost no backstory on any of them.
No, I mean, the characters in the sequel feel more like, okay, this person's that guy, and then we have this guy. Like, they all fall into their little tropey, but these guys all feel like they are, I don't know, like, we all know these people, and they...
Yeah, there's moments in the film where they're kind of talking over each other. You don't even really get to hear what they say. They kind of, like, just sort of, like, yammer on at each other.
Yeah, they all feel like people who are just coworkers and, all have some kind of relationship. They love and hate each other because they live on a ship together and work together. And
it's changing that for the aliens. That's actually one of the things that aliens is really smart, is that it changes it up, and it's like, no, this time we have a team going in that know what's happening or are expecting something, so we're not going in with co-workers, we're going in with movie characters kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
So it's a really neat idea. So yeah.
You don't really get the idea that Sigourney Weaver is the star right away. Like, it does feel like an ensemble film in the beginning.
Honestly, because I'm pretty sure I said this when I talked to Cara about it a few years ago, but in most horror movies, when there's like a final girl, do you know who that is within the first 5 minutes? You can tell.
Yeah.
Right. Very rarely are you surprised at who the last person standing is. In Alien,
right,
there is no hint who it's going to be.
No, I mean, I guess you're sort of rooting for Dallas in the beginning, the captain, and because he seems pretty likable and grounded, and for the most part, and like you're rooting for him. And the other female that's on the ship, like, she seems more like the horror movie trope female, just because her reactions to things are very emotional. Like, she's scared all the time. She has the most extreme reactions.
And the sad part is that, Ripley's often seen as one of these, like, bastions of, like, a strong female central character in a time when there wasn't many options for that. And I don't know if you're aware of this, but that role was not meant to be a woman at first.
I heard it was written to be in a way that it could have been either. Which, once you know it, turns out is a great way to write women.
Yeah, there's something to be said there that if you actually just write a character, especially, like, don't get me wrong, obviously there's certain roles where, okay, the essence of the character arc is defined by their gender, right? Yeah. So, and same with any other factor. Like, most characters, it doesn't matter if they're, white or black or Asian or whatever, but sometimes it's specific because the story's about their experience in that, world, right?
Of course.
But you're right. A lot of characters that we just, like, assume that you write a normal character, certainly in this time period, that all the normal characters are written as men, and then the only characters that are women are the ones that are written specifically to be women characters, and that's why you have the issue. And obviously the fact that most of the writers were also men also adds to that, obviously, as well. But yes, but no, so it's just funny to me that, like, we could have very easily been in a situation where one of the key characters we hold up from that era as a I mean, I don't think it's a coincidence that at the Oscars this year or last year, whenever this happened, she came out with Brie Larson and Gal Gadot. Like, it was like the two superheroes from, like, present day and Sigourney Weaver. Like, yeah, it's like, she was the superhero. Obviously. She like, if anything, like, Linda Hamilton should be on stage as well, but that's fine. Alice, like, she wasn't available, right? But I get it. Like, it totally makes sense.
She was filming Dark Fate.
Yeah, she was too busy making an okay movie. I try not to make. Right. I try not to say that with too much salt, because I actually like parts of that movie. It just, it wasn't. Like,
me too.
The world didn't need it, I guess is what I'm saying. Yeah.
It was satisfactory.
Yes, it's fine that it exists, but it didn't need to exist.
Not really.
Yeah.
Maybe we should just let it die.
That could go for every franchise that refuses to go away, Alien included, to be honest, at this point. So
yeah, are they making another one?
I don't think there's anything.
It's kind of a hit, right?
No, it wasn't. The opposite.
Oh, I thought it did all right.
It made less than Prometheus did, I think. So
I hate Prometheus.
Oh, that'll be a salty one. So Yes. So cast is great. Obviously, we mentioned Sigourney Weaver. Tom Skerritt is Dallas. Good. Veronica Cartwright is Lambert. Harry Dean Stanton is a favourite, who pops up in a lot of stuff. Yeah, obviously he passed away just last year, I think it was now. Yeah. At 90 years old. Because me and Connor had been doing Twin Peaks, and he was in that new season in 2017, in his late 80s. So I was like, man, he must get big up there in the age. So you got Ian Holm as Ash. John Hurt as Kane.
Edible bacon.
How dare you? How dare you? If you want to make a joke about Ian Holm, I will accept a reference to his Fifth Element character.
The priest?
Yeah, he's kind of funny in that movie, though. He's likable.
I don't know his name in that movie.
Not do I. I remember him doing the cross sign a lot on his shoulders as he's getting scared by these big alien dudes. Yeah. And try to convince Bruce Willis to help him. Anyway, we'll talk about that movie someday. And then you got Yaphet Kotto as Parker, and that's the main cast.
Jonesy.
And of course Jonesy, yes. The Kit Kat, who of course must be saved at all costs. Which, by the way,
did you say that John Hurt was in the movie too?
Yes, he's Ken. Yeah.
You said his name. Okay, all right. I probably talked over it.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we lost him too recently.
Yeah. In fact, amusingly, when me and Connor talked about this movie, it was right before, and John Hurt passed away a few weeks later, and then it was a few weeks after Aliens that Bill Paxton passed away, and we said we have to stop doing Alien movies because we're killing the cast. Like, we're offing them.
Sigourney Weaver must be saved.
Yes. So it's obviously a real shame. Great cast. I think casting such a talented team was a big deal, and it went a long way to making this feel like it wasn't a silly B monster movie. So no, good stuff. So yeah, I think we can probably get to the spoilers now. I think it's time to sort of go through the movie, favorite moments and how they handle certain things and whatnot. And I'm sure it'll lead to conversations about why it all works so well. But we'll start. I'll thank our Patreon producers before we go any further, though. Thank you to David Short, Alison M. Fordyce, Cindy Palacios, and Tyler Hess. These guys are all $20 or more on patreon.com/MailFuzzTV, which Tara will tell you about right now.
Yeah, if you like our channel and you want to support it, go check out the Patreon page, and if you donate as little as $1, you'll get bonus episodes of the Ace, so you can check out what we think of the Trancers saga that we are working through currently. Follow along with us. You're gonna laugh every time I call it a saga.
Not only that, it's the fact that because you say it every time, that's the one you always remember to promote. And there's several other episodes at this point you could be like, oh, we did Free Jack, we did Time Cop.
Yeah, Free Jack was pretty fun. Time Cop, of course. I always promote Time Cop and Judge Dredd because those are big ones.
Yes.
Before we realize what the caliber of the bonus movie should probably be. So yeah, go check it out. Check out the back catalog.
Yeah.
We've been doing this a year, so there's a few to pick from.
And of course, at the $5 tier, you get to vote on an episode once per month, and you get the episodes a day early. So go have a look. As well as content for other Mail Fuzz TV shows. So yeah, but let's go full spoilers in for Alien, should it concern anyone. So we shall begin at the 20th Century Fox logo. No, I'm kidding. We shall begin. Well, I mean, I think we have to mention the because it's got a pretty iconic way the title comes up, right? The slow fade of each part of the letters. It's very distinct, and even that's quite a beautiful shot of just I assume it's a painting of the space with just that orange glow of the one planet kind of giving it a bit of light. It's really pretty. But essentially the way it really starts is after the text sort of saying what the mission is or what the ship is it's just the way it spends its time going around the ship with no one there, showing the helmet, showing the computer turn on, saying that we can see there's evidence of life, like the people have been here but there's no one here now, it's the dining table in the kitchen area, all the various things, until eventually we get the slow kind of the pods of the cryo sleep opening and them getting out. Kind of, I think it's John Hurt gets out first and kind of stumbles out, and before I think it's really effective from a sound design perspective because it's so quiet, and then it kind of fades to them around the table having breakfast and just like they're all very loud, and there's like all of a sudden there's all this life happening. The cat jumping around and whatever else. There's so much going on.
Yeah, I've never really noticed Jonesy in this first scene until this watch for some reason.
Really?
Which is odd, because why wouldn't I think, like, how did the space cat get on board the ship? Like, obviously he had to be there, but I've never noticed him until this viewing.
I don't think, maybe it's there if you're really looking for it, but I've never noticed, like, where Jonesy, like, is he in one of the pods with someone else at the start? Or does he have his own? Or does he have his own little pod?
Living off of space rats.
Well, yeah, but I'm thinking, does he have his own little pod? Did they have like a little pet pod, or is he in? Because obviously, at the end of the movie, he's in the same pod as Sigourney Weaver. But yeah, I'm in spoilers, so I can say. I mean, it was obvious Ripley's the one who's going to survive. She's Ripley, but
and Jonesy.
Yes, and Jonesy. Yeah, there's two survivors. Damn it! There's not one survivor in Alien. There's two. The cat counts. The cat counts. Shit. Yeah, so of course, and I love that they're getting breakfast, and it's not until after they've had some food that Dallas is like, okay, let me go and check like why we're awake, like what's going on. And
yeah, the man needs his morning coffee also. Yeah, before he can start his day.
Because he goes to Mother, and they go to the bridge or whatever you want to call it, and they check where they are. It's like, this doesn't look like our solar system. I don't see Earth anywhere. Like, what's going on? Dallas is like, okay, now there's a signal coming up. And there's so much world building here. It's one of the things that I really love is Brett, and because we hear Brett and Parker like talk about the bonus situation and yada yada. They want more money, and when Dallas says, "Oh, they have to like go down and check this," and it could be like a rescue. It's in the company's kind of like rules. It's like, hey, no, I mean, I don't want to do it. This is not our job description. I mean, we'll go down for more money. And I think Asher comes in and says, no, it's under the, it quotes them the book. It's like, hey, under subsection C42, whatever. Like,
or you get nothing.
Or you get nothing. This will void your entire contract if you refuse to do this. And then immediately, like, I think Parker's like, we're going down. All right.
Yeah.
It changes his tune immediately.
They're so funny, the two of them. I like that. There are multiple instances where they're trying to make it seem like they do way more work than they actually do.
Yeah, because later on when everything's broken and they're stuck in the planet with the shuttle, it's like, okay, how much is it going to take to sort of repair the shuttle? And like one of them says, it's going to take at least 17 hours. And then I think it's Parker.
35 hours.
Yeah. it doubles it.
There's that when Ripley's coming down and there's all this steam everywhere, and she's like, okay, we'll just get it done. And then she leaves and he immediately turns the steam off. It's like, oh, it was all set up to make it look like things were way more broken.
I love it. It's just good, the little character building, but then the characters aren't that deep. They spend a lot of time just making them feel real with little things like that.
Yeah.
Like, and one of the things I love as well is that Ash quoting the book and like what the rules are about the money and answering these calls. I love that this movie very kind of like in very subtle ways builds up the mystique of whatever this company is. Like I don't even know, like I'm sure that the name Weyland-Yutani is probably in the movie, but it's not uttered that much until the second one, right? So it's not like that memorable. But you get this sense of the evil company who sends them down there for this, knowing that they're getting into something semi-dangerous. And obviously we get to it later in the movie exactly how much they know, how much Ash knows. But like you get this real sense without ever seeing any of the company, like what they're like, and just I don't know. I like that it never cuts back to a headquarters. Like it'd be so easy to put in like a subplot in this movie where there's like a boardroom of like Weyland-Yutani executives like, have we heard back from our operative on board? No, we haven't. Oh,
yeah. What was that alien knockoff that we watched? Leviathan?
Oh, Leviathan, yeah.
Yeah, with that woman who represented the company.
That's right, yeah, the sexy business lady who was like ominously like saying, "Oh, the rescue's coming in 2 days."
I'm Mrs. Weyland-Yutani.
Yeah, that's basically it. Yeah. And again, it's something that Aliens expands upon, but it's just, I love how it introduces all that stuff. So sure enough, they go down, and obviously the main ship doesn't go down. They've got like a smaller craft that they take down to land on the planet. They have a bumpy landing though, which is what breaks everything and why. But it's okay. So while they're fixing stuff, we might as well go send out a search party. Like Yeah, and again, the realism here where like they actually have to analyze the atmosphere. Okay, can we walk out there? Not really, no. We need suits, but the pressure's okay. We can still walk out in suits. Blah blah blah. And it's obviously it's Kane, because obviously he's the one that gets infected. We go Dallas, and it's Lambert. It's those three are going out. A bit of trivia here is that to make some of the alien stuff look bigger, because the sets weren't actually that big, they had kids in suits. To make the cannon look bigger, it was kids.
Yeah, I think I've heard that.
Yeah, at least
was it like Ridley Scott's kids?
At least one of them was Ridley Scott's kids. I don't know if all three were, but at least one of them was. Yeah. Really neat trick.
It works.
Yeah, I love the visual of the like their video feed kind of like distorting. It's like old VHS tape. Obviously, that feels a bit. There's a bit of a retro future thing now. It wasn't intended at the time, obviously, but now because we've went past a lot of this technology, that all the buttons feel old and things like that. But yeah. I dig it. It's one of the things that I'll just put this complaint about Prometheus out right now. I hate that they didn't like match the tech. I hate that everything's so hologram and slick and like, screw you. Like one of the things.
That's just the problem with science fiction movies now. Is because technology has advanced so much. I mean, like, look how we're communicating. Like, it's so clear.
I know, but
that you can't just make something look old future. But I miss that tactile. I like the sound of the buttons being clicked on and switched on. And
one of the best things that they did with Alien Isolation, the video game, is that they didn't update anything. They know we're going to match Alien. We're going to do the technology that's in Alien,
terrifying.
And it's wonderful, right? The art design in that game is one of my favorite things about that game. I love how it really feels like you were walking around a ship in the Alien universe. It feels like
it's on the Switch now. I'm tempted.
Yeah, I bet it looks like crap on the Switch.
Oh, it's not like. I mean, wasn't it out on the PlayStation 3?
I mean, it was, but I mean, I never saw that version. I saw the PC version.
Oh, I think it'll be okay on the Switch.
I mean, maybe, I don't know. Doom
looks good on it. Not as good, but it looks good.
I'll take your word for it. I'll take your word for it. I ain't doing it. If I ever get a Switch, and that's a big if, I'll stick to...
Hey, I can take Alien Isolation to go. That's kind of cool.
Oh yeah, because sitting in your car at the side of like a fast food place is the perfect atmosphere for a little bit of...
How do you know my life so well?
Yeah, in Isolation, you want to be in a dark room, the big screen, surround sound, or good headphones, whatever one works for you better. Like,
well, if it comes to Stadia, I'll get it.
You want to be... it actually just got added to Game Pass, so if you have a PC or an Xbox One... you can get it in Game Pass for free. I know you don't. I'm saying the people. It's there. I mean, I've had it for ages on Steam, but whatever. So,
endorsement from both of us, even though neither of us have finished it.
But I finished it.
No, you didn't.
Yeah, I did.
You said it was too scary.
I didn't. I finished. How dare you? This is filthy lies. This is filthy lies to make me look like a lesser human being.
You told me you never finished it because you got too scared. Your anxiety was too high.
Luckily, I streamed my playthrough of it, so there was witnesses to my completion. There's a great moment actually of me like reading a file, because you go to computers in the game to read files. There's a great moment of me on my first playthrough of and you can't find this unfortunately anymore online, but there's a great moment of me.
Convenient.
I was on the computer like looking at a file, and I came out of it. And it doesn't pause the game when you're reading files. The game's still happening around it. I came out of the file and the alien was right there, but it didn't quite see me. So I just crouched under the desk, but my face the entire time was like... it was a very tense game. It was a very tense experience playing through Alien Isolation, okay? Very effective.
I want to play it for my parents. I want them to watch it for some reason.
Yeah. Really...
Be so tense.
Yeah, I think it's got a rough patch early on where it actually feels a bit too hard, but once you get some more devices that help you fight back a little bit, it feels a lot better. Like once you've got the flamethrower and you can, so because early on in the game, if the alien finds you, it's instant death. You're just done, and it's a bit frustrating. Yeah. Later on, you can sort of whoosh it with the flamethrower, and it's like, okay, I bought myself a minute. Like I can go do stuff. All right. So yes, alien though, they're on the planet, and they're sneaking in to the ship, and there's a bit of a journey there, and Ash is watching on this was what talking about the videotape being kind of wonky and the signal kind of getting out. But they get there and we get to the big cannon, and I think I don't let Prometheus influence me here. For me, the mystery still works when they go in there of like, what the hell is this? Where is it from?
Yeah,
and
it's not human, and it has something has burst in through it. And at some point.
And as much as I don't like Prometheus, I do like the idea that whatever this is, the alien, because it's clearly a different species was driving the ship. Like whoever was in that spacesuit, that was not a xenomorph. That was not their species. I do like the idea that the xenomorph is a weapon of mass destruction. It's a biological weapon of mass destruction of some kind. I do like that idea.
I like the idea that this is just an earlier version of the Nostromo, that somebody accidentally got a parasite of an alien and it attacked them to the point where they had to crash.
I get that. Yeah.
Yeah, the last survivor had something burst out of its chest.
Yeah, so you're just saying this ship, likewise, this species that we've not discovered yet, found an alien.
Yeah.
And this was the result, yeah.
I don't need it to be designed to be the perfect weapon. Like, it's just an invasive species in my mind.
Oh, no, I don't need it to be designed either. I'm not saying that necessarily. Just that whoever was transporting it... whoever was transporting it was using it as a weapon, like it was going to be used as a weapon. There's a great bit of fan fiction that I've forgotten entirely, but it was that the alien was designed to fight the Thing, which was it was a great idea. It was like, because the Thing, the way it mutates, like the alien, because of its life cycle with combat, I don't know, it was really good. It was, someone wrote this great nerdy like explanation as to why it was designed to fight the Thing, and I thought that's a great idea. But yeah, so I love the atmosphere. I love the there's a very unnatural layer of mist in the room with the eggs, where it feels like there's like a top to it. You can almost see the layer above it, where it's like, this is where it stops, and it's unnatural.
Right. It stopped with light.
Yeah. And all that is,
it's very cool,
and it's just a trick of light. That's all it is. It's like a sort of laser sort of light that's going over the mist machine or whatever, right? It's very simple as an effect, but it looks really weird and otherworldly.
Yeah, it does.
And it really was. One of my favorite things about the eggs, we never talked about the design of the eggs. I love the way the flaps open. Even the flaps look kind of like,
it's very much a vagina.
Yeah, they're very vaginal. That's an awful word.
Yeah, it senses heat and it opens up.
Is that how it works? No, but it's just the way it kind of like, again, it doesn't feel like a mechanism and like a belt weight. It genuinely feels organic, the way it kind of flaps.
I think the design and the look of the egg is probably the thing that holds up the best in these creature designs. Like the creature looks cool, but there are points where it looks a little bit like a man in a suit. But the egg, like, you get to see something inside moving in it, and the way it's lit from the back, and it opens up and it looks like just two like turkey breasts or something on it. It's so gross.
But it's moving, it's pulsating inside when you look in the top. Yeah, all of it looks, it's phenomenal. It looks so gross and otherworldly and like real, it looks very real. Like, there's a couple of moments we said where you can see it's sort of a guy in a suit or looks a bit goofier, it's just literally one or two moments. It's not a lot.
It's real. Yeah.
But like, that is the only thing where you can say, okay, I can see it being better, like, with some trickery now, right? I wouldn't change the rest of it. I would just fix. I mean, I'm not saying they should do this to this movie. I'm just saying if it was made now, but the egg, that
part would have been CGI.
Yeah, but the point I'm ultimately making here is that I can't envision in any way to improve this. The egg.
No, the egg is perfect. It's perfect. It holds up so well.
There's nothing. It's perfect. There's no way to improve it. Is the point I was trying to make. Whereas those one or two goofy moments with the suit, okay, there's a technical improvement to be made in theory, right?
Well, just if you made it look a little less like human hands or a human man in a suit. But for the most part, the alien design also is, I think, amazing and perfect. But I think the egg is it is otherworldly, but it is familiar looking. Like it looks like something that, maybe exists here on a microscopic level, but has been enlarged to the point where it's like it's kind of familiar enough, but you know what you're looking at. It looks almost insectoid, or it looks so real, and the movement inside is so real.
And the pacing of this stuff, by the way, all the build up to this moment where the facehugger actually lunges at him, is wonderful. They're walking through the ship, the cannon, the room at the exit, because he has to descend into it. He has to sort of rappel down. All of that is wonderful.
Yeah, I love the actual shot of it. It's such a wide shot too. A wide shot that you stay on for a while, so you can really soak in like what the ship looks like.
Yeah,
and you can see the different under the mist. You can see just all these little egg sacs everywhere. And
by the way, because obviously the back of that is a painting, right? Obviously, there's a little bit that's real, and the rest of it's a painting. It holds up. That painting, that matte painting for that ship, it holds up really well. It looks wonderful. So this is a moment that I really like. On repeat viewings over the years, I've really come to like sort of single out as like a moment, right, that I think is worth mentioning. And that's that when they come back with Kane to the ship, Ripley says, no, we can't let you in with him. That's against quarantine rules. And I mean, maybe that's timely right now as well, because the virus and everything. I'm doubly thinking about it, right? But that basically what happens in this scene is that Dallas and Lambert do not want to respect social distancing, right? And they're like, no, let us in, right? And obviously, it makes sense actually later, obviously, when we find out the secret with Ash, why he does this, but Ash just ignores her and, lets them in anyway. But there is something beautiful about this where the character who does survive, if they'd listened to her, if they'd followed the rules when she said, no, follow this rule, none of this would have happened. They'd all be fine.
Yeah. Well, except for
obviously Kane. Yeah, he's already done. He's a goner. He's a goner. But what's beautiful about it though is that it's also like, I don't think you hate the other characters though for wanting to do it, because you understand why they're desperate to just let them in. They want to save them.
Right. If you were the person in that situation, you would want them to break the rules to let you in.
Like Ripley's right in what she's saying, and she was right to say no, but you don't necessarily think the others are complete idiots. You get that they're desperate to try and save their friend. Like they want to try and rescue him. So you don't find yourself frustrated with them either. But so of course they have him on the table, and they're trying to like take it off, and it doesn't work. Like Ash says that we might even kill him if we try and take it off, and Dallas is like, there's
no way to take it off without ripping his face off.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the first time it's like he might kill him, and then they try to take it off because he makes the decision, no, I'll take responsibility. Let's try and take it off. And then when they do try and take it off, it's like, no, this will definitely kill him if we take it off. There's no way. It's actually gripping. It's just tightening its grip when they try to take it off. So, it's beautiful stuff, and and all,
they try to cut it off.
Yeah, they try to cut it off, and that's when they get to the acid for blood, which is,
of course,
such a wonderful little idea. Which, what I think is interesting about it is that it doesn't actually play into this first movie that much. When you think about it, it doesn't really come up again.
No, not really.
Yeah, it's one of those things.
Just that they don't want to.
It's basically a reason not to cut it off, right? That's it.
It's a reason not to cut it off, and also if the thing, when you want to kill it, like maybe it would be better just to capture it, because at first they think it's small, and if they can just capture it instead of just kill it, that's what they have to do, because if they kill it and it bleeds, and then they're all going to die.
The actual xenomorph later, you mean?
Yeah, so later on, when they still think it's small.
Yes. When they still think it's small. Yeah, it grows up pretty fast, the main one.
Sure does.
Yeah. And because there's a wonderful scene where Ripley comes to Ash to basically...
Yeah, I really like this scene, too.
Yeah, to give him shit for not following orders and making it clear the chain of command that she is, she's the third in command. So when Dallas and Kane are off the ship, she's the one in charge. She's the commanding officer. And, he kind of awkwardly... Because this is the thing, we talk about all the phallic imagery with the alien and stuff. There is actually a weird phallic thing with him as well, which we'll get to later when we get there. But this was kind of a setup for that scene in this power play. Because I don't think the movie like for the most part, really, it does have much of a sort of dynamic in the genders, and it's really saying much with Ripley's role and her kind of becoming the survivor and becoming the leader of essentially who's left. But you can't ignore the dynamic between her and Ash in the way that she kind of feels challenged by Ash, and then what Ash actually is, but also how Ash tries to kill her later, which is very phallic and very. So, like, this is kind of the setup here for the power dynamics between them and her feeling challenged by him. But that's certainly there. It's certainly there.
I think there's something there with the ship being called Mother also.
Oh, the computer being called Mother, you mean?
The computer. Yeah.
No, I can see that. Yeah, the fact that they call us Mother, and then the alien life cycle, the idea that Kane kind of is the mother to the alien. Yeah. It's kind of a weird, the idea that Kane doesn't have a say in being the mother. It's something that's forced upon him. Like there's maybe some sort of weird sexual commentary you can get into in there. I
imagine when it comes to the Nostromo and the AI, the AI sort of represents the company, and the company is where you're supposed to feel safe. Mother is supposed to make you feel safe. And then when, you find out you can't trust your own mother anymore or something, when the company betrays them, then
the mother's a lie, basically, is what we're saying.
Yeah,
no, it's interesting stuff. Yes.
Yeah.
So
I had another point, but I forgot. So
maybe I'll come back.
Continue.
Yes. So the facehugger actually comes off on its own eventually, and they come down to have a look and like check it, and like Kane doesn't wake up yet. Because Kane wakes up later. The thing comes off first, and they try and fix it. This is the scene where they're looking for it in the room because they can't find it, and it falls on Ripley's shoulder, and she freaks the shit out, and Dallas even sort of lunges in front of her to sort of protect her, kind of again hinting that he's the lead hero. He's a hero in the movie. So it kind of almost is a psycho thing where it's kind of a shock that he's killed like halfway, like he doesn't make it to the second half.
Yeah. It also is just it messes with your expectations, and all of a sudden who you thought your hero was is just gone, and now you really feel unsafe and unsure of your situation. In fact, actually, although we have seen Ripley take charge and make the right decisions when she does, but now she's forced into a position of power where people don't maybe see her that way.
Yeah, I just wanted to correct it. I mean, the scene with her and Ash must be after, because I'm pretty sure he's working on the facehugger when she comes to see him, right? Or actually, maybe it happens twice, because he's in like... he's definitely working on the facehugger for one of the scenes where she comes to see him.
Yeah.
Because she kind of says, oh, like, what are you doing? And he's like, oh, I'm collating, because that comes back later.
Right.
That he's still collating.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. But I like the scene a lot because it does make you suspect that, she's confronting him because he's supposed to be the science officer. He's supposed to be the one who, he was quoting the book earlier, he's the one who knows the rules. And as a scientist, he should respect the whole quarantine of new life.
Well, the beautiful thing about it is that it's not like we suspect from this, the first time through, that he's untrustworthy, not that he's a robot. Like, right.
I mean, I don't know what it's like to watch this movie and not know that he's a robot.
I know, it's weird.
I've seen it so many times, and I first saw it as a really young person, so I don't I don't know, I don't know what that first experience is like, unfortunately.
It is interesting, a dynamic to throw in here about artificial life, though, right? Because everything's about the life cycle of the alien, and it's all about genitalia and like all these phallic images, and then you throw in a robot that isn't created from that, like it's completely unique and on its own, and
so wouldn't really have, like, he has no threat from the alien at all. Like he just has a mission.
Yeah. So I mean the alien may still kill him.
It might, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the alien may not give a shit that it's synthetic, but, I mean, whatever. So...
Maybe. Do you think an alien would care? Like, if it doesn't have the warm body to, like, I don't know, implant or take? Because, we find out in the next movie, really, that the alien doesn't eat them. Like, the alien takes them and brings them, cocoons them. They wouldn't have a need to do that for an artificial life form.
No, but it'd probably still kill them and then realize, oh no, wait, this thing's useless, and move on.
Maybe.
Yeah.
The alien is like the shark, you know. You're in its territory.
Kind of, yeah.
You can't really blame the alien for.
Well, yeah, but they presumably still eat something, so maybe they still eat some people.
Maybe. I don't know. It does have 2 mouths to feed.
Very true. Very true. I mean, there's all sorts of questions you could get to with that, I suppose. But when Kane eventually wakes up, they're all happy, they're delighted, they go back up to the main ship around this time as well. And it's like, okay, right, you know, that he wants to eat. He's like, he feels fine, but he wants to eat. He doesn't really remember that, you know, being attacked. He just remembers kind of some vague things.
Some dreams.
So they're sitting around the circular table and they're having this, and I love watching this scene, like knowing what's coming, because it's like such a build to it. You know it's coming. You can hear the heartbeat.
The scene.
Yeah, yeah. You can hear the heartbeat kind of starting to come in as it's going. And they shot this, one of the great features on the Blu-ray actually is that they shot this multi-camera because they could only really do the effect once of the actual chestburster, right? So unlike most scenes, they shot it with multiple cameras, because most stuff is shot with one camera where you just do the multiple takes and whatever. But every so often, another common reason for this would be a big stunt with a car or a building blowing up. They can only do it once, you know, back when they actually had to blow up a building and not just CG it. But they had to do it multi-camera. So what they did was they didn't actually like tell the cast members exactly what they knew something was going to happen, obviously, but they didn't tell them exactly what it was going to look like or show them what it was going to look like. And one of the things is that the blood spatter on Lambert that makes her go that actually like was just a sort of accident. It wasn't really meant to hit her. It just kind of did. So that was like a genuine shriek.
I heard she like almost fainted.
Yeah. So they didn't know what was really going to happen. So obviously, like the start when it's still John Hurt kind of like moving around, like that's like a pretty separate thing. But once he's on the table and it's time for the chestburster part, and he's obviously not, he's part of him stuck through the table and you know whatever. Multi-camera, one take. It's beautiful stuff, but I just it's such a memorable scene. I love how you see this. There's like quick splatter, like it's almost like a gunshot, like a squibs went off, and then you see the movement from under the shirt. And it kind of, you know, you can see it kind of coming up from under his skin, and then bleh. And then if there's anything that doesn't hold up like 100%, it's maybe only at 90%, is when it scurries away from the table.
It looks a little bit like a track.
Yeah, a little bit silly, but that is the only thing that maybe doesn't completely hold up.
I think the scene is pretty flawless otherwise, though.
Oh yeah, it's wonderful.
This is the scene that you think about when you think of the movie.
Yeah, it's absolutely. And I said Dallas doesn't make it to the second half. That's not entirely true, because this actually takes place at pretty much at the hour mark. So this is actually the halfway point. It doesn't feel like it though, because everything's been building up to this, and then this is what really sets the real threat.
It's a real slow start, like the pacing. But I love the pacing of.
As do I.
I think it should be slow and atmospheric. It takes a while before the xenomorph becomes like the main threat.
Yeah, as it should be, because it gives all of it so much weight, and it means we have time to spend with the characters before they start dying off, which is important.
Which happens.
Yeah, which definitely happens. The first one to go, because they obviously go hunting for it at this point, and they send them off at space. They give them the Spock, like you know, like shoot off at space sequence, fun stuff.
Yeah,
but they go hunting for it. They come up with Joe, I love so much about how Aliens expands upon a lot of these ideas, but they come up with a sort of rudimentary tracker. They just sort of like you know deals with it's got a good range. You can sort of get it in front of you if it's better.
It's like measuring heat signals or changes movement in the atmosphere, pressure or something.
Basically, it sounds like a portable version of what like a light sensor and like a sort of security system would use. But so they split into two teams and they go for it, and they actually get a false positive because Jonesy's running around, and they're like, "Hey, okay, go get the cat," Parker.
First he lets him go just because he thinks, "Oh, it's just a cat." And they're like, "What are you doing? If you don't get the cat now, like we're gonna keep picking up the cat instead of the alien."
And he ends up in the area where like I think the shuttle or like stuff.
There's a lot of hanging chains, water
dripping. The scene's flaws. I love the cat witnesses though. Jonesy witnesses this murder, this first kill, and there's obviously the shot of the alien raising its head behind him is like, wow, you know, like if there's scenes where the suit doesn't hold up, this is not one of them. This scene is like utterly astonishing.
Plus, it's the first time we see the alien.
Yeah, it's his big entrance. Yeah,
big. We're still expecting something like what we saw in the chest burster. In a couple hours, it's grown to like 7 feet tall.
Do you know what I love? I love that there's not even a scene of like anyone else that's not on this ship or part of this ship, and there's so much mythology in this movie about, you know, setting up the company that's behind all this, setting up the life cycle of the alien and the mystery of this other ship that it came from. Like, this world feels so real and lived in, and we see so little of it, and I think that's what's so beautiful about it, and it's why it's so exciting in Aliens to expand it a bit. So we actually have a company representative this time. We actually have like what the Marines in this world look like now. So, you know, like all this kind of stuff. I love it. I love that world building.
Yeah, me too.
So, yeah, he dies, and the rest of them have found him, and they're like distraught by it, and like, oh, we have to take this, you know. And at this point, Parker's like pissed that his friend's gone, so he's like, no, let's kill this son of a bitch. So we're going to do it.
Yeah, he is. He's also like, I love the shot where he's just so overwhelmed that how big it is now. Like, it was big.
Yeah,
I don't know. Well, actually, I love his reaction.
That detail that I love as well. Before Brett dies, he finds like the shedding skin of the little version of him. It's like a shed. And
the audience kind of knows what it is before he does. Like, oh, it's like a snake skin, like grew out of it.
Yeah, so good. So then the second plan is, okay, it's using the vents, which, by the way, this I don't even think I realized this when I was playing Alien Isolation, but one of the details that they lifted directly from this is the way the vents open and close. It's this circular kind of closing mechanism, because when I saw it in this, because I mean, I've seen it since I played the game, but for whatever reason I don't remember noticing it last time, but I was like, oh shit, those vents are the exact same as the game. Like, they actually took the vents, like how they open.
I mean, the game is just, what would it be like to be on the instrument?
It is. It really is. And it would be a problem if it was a movie, because it's like we're just doing the first movie again. But because it's a game and you get to play it, no, this is what I wanted. Give me the exact experience, damn it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Dallas is like, no, I'm going to go in the vent with the flamethrower. And this is a wonderful sequence where, you know, Lambert's tracking it, and it's like, oh, it's coming towards you, it's right above you, this doesn't make sense, it's like right there. Again, the sound effect, the pulsing of the tracker, the sweat of him, but also the sweat of like Lambert every time it cuts back to her, like all that stuff. It was wonderful.
Yeah, you really are in fear for him. Like, I think maybe the first 50 or so times I've watched this movie, like that jump scare always got me. It doesn't get me anymore, but like,
I love the sound, because when the alien goes, you know, the sound is again otherworldly. It really takes you like places.
Yeah, and again, you lose Dallas, the person you thought would protect you throughout the film.
Yep,
he's not gone.
Yeah, but he's not the first kill either. It's not like they wanted to shock you with the first one. So no, we'll do it second, right? I think they killed someone who was quite likable first. And then they went with the leader second, and it's like, okay, shit, what do we have now? Who's left? And at this point, we've lost 3 people, because Kane, obviously, the chestburster killed him, and we've taken out 2 with the alien. And it's okay, so we know Ripley's in charge. That was set up earlier, that she's the next in command. So we
don't trust Ash, and it's not because we don't know he's a robot, but because he doesn't follow the rules, and he's willing. He said by letting them in that he's willing to take responsibility for whatever happens. And now 2 people have died, and there's an alien loose. So we already kind of like, well, poo-poo for him, because we already decided he's to blame. They
start to form plans, but it's around this time where Ripley, now she has the authority to go to mother herself, right? Because as I said earlier, I will say, if I'm going to critique something, is that the computer is kind of silly how it works, because like Dallas, when he goes to talk to it, he literally types in like questions, and it just answers them like he's like, oh, what are our chances of survival? And it's like 12% or something. Like, it's not good. Maybe even less than that. And I'm like, wait, how does the computer calculate this exactly? Whatever.
It's all the dots that are on the wall.
Yeah, all these lights that are flashing. I also love that computer's a whole room. Like the entire walls of this room are the computer, right?
I do like the design of the room. It looks very like
It's fun.
comfortable.
No, that's true. No, it's fun.
I could sit in that room, read a book.
Ripley goes to ask kind of like, okay, why were we sent there? What's going on? And it's like, no, this signal's not something that like was a surprise. This was something that the company knew about. And she discovers she has to override it first to get the answers. But she gets in and finds out that Ash knows about this, and that his mission is to bring back a live specimen, and all other parameters are secondary. The crew is expendable, and it's like,
What
wait,
mean expendable?
yes, good reference. And she immediately goes to confront him. In fact, actually, he pops up over her shoulder, right? Like he immediately just kind of he's there.
He's there.
Yeah, you're right. Because I love that moment.
She's still processing things that she can't really do anything. She sort of like yells at him, but he leaves, and she cries or something. Like it's not really a confrontation at that moment. Yeah. It's more of like peekaboo.
Yeah, and she like asks, and he does kind of glitch at one point, but he like basically because she's going to interrupt, he has to kind of take her out. But he's kind of glitching. It's very weird because it's kind of the first hint there's something not quite right with him. It's not just that he's untrustworthy. There's something wrong with him. But he attacks her. He tries to he locks her in, and then we have to talk about the way he tries to kill her. He rolls up a magazine, and which, by the way, the fact that they even have magazines is kind of like retro in a way. But he rolls up a magazine and tries to choke her with it by shoving it down her mouth. Like that is very phallic. That is
and very unusual.
Yeah,
like it doesn't seem like a really convenient way to kill somebody.
And it begs the question, like, he's glitching out, because even though technically, like, some of this is part of his mission, but, like, they do acknowledge that this is kind of him freaking out. And the second movie also kind of confirms this, that no, there was a glitch. This was not the way it's supposed to function. Like, is there something here where he has no real, like, sexual organ of his own, or at least if he does, it doesn't work, or this is just not something he can be a part of.
Data.
Yeah, he's not fully functional, to put it in data terms. Or maybe you just need to meet Tasha Yar. Maybe Tasha Yar would have got it going. No, but there is something interesting. So if you go back and recontextualize, like, kind of like the way he kind of ignored her command, and while you could maybe argue it's just because he wanted to save the people, even though we ultimately know that's not true. Like you could read into it that there is a sexist thing here going, where he's not willing to take this order from a woman, and then you go forward to this and say no, but he's a robot though. But then he tries to kill her in a way that's very phallic by shoving something down her mouth, and it's like, is there some kind of weird like jealousy, or like this urge to be a real boy, for lack of a better, like, is there some element there?
It's never been a scene that's really like made sense in my mind. Every time I watch it, I'm just like, why would it's such an inefficient way to try to choke somebody. Like, it's way harder than just grabbing her throat, and there has to be something more to it. But yeah, to be honest, I don't know. I always thought it was kind of a bizarre choice for the movie. It's
like, because I said that he's kind of separate from everything because he's not part of a life cycle, and I wonder if this is like, an unknown to him even, like, desire to be in some way, like,
I don't know. Maybe
active.
Michael Fassbender's character answers this question.
I don't want to think about that. Please don't bring that into it. Please don't. But I guess in a really dark way, it's kind of a desire to be more human, and it's something they return to in a more healthy way with Bishop in the second movie. But there is kind of this desire to be the stronger, domineering, and then you add the phallic imagery into it, and it's like, yeah. So like you've got this kind of thing there, which is proper dark, and it feels like he is kind of winning. And obviously, eventually Parker and Lambert, come in and pull him off, and they hit him, and he hits him with a fire extinguisher, and his head just comes off, but not completely. It hangs off at the back, so it's kind of dangling at the back.
It's a little like T1000.
It's actually, yeah, it wouldn't even shock me if, I mean, obviously Cameron's a fan of the movie because he made the sequel.
Yeah, but you get to see the android parts, and it's not like anything we've ever seen in a movie before.
Yeah, like it's like milk.
It's like rubber tubes and silicone and milk.
Little balls. It's like little. Do you know what it almost looks like on the tubing? It's almost like there's like pickles, like pickled onions, like all the way up the tubing.
It could be made from that.
I don't think it actually is, but I mean, I think that some of the liquid was real milk, like, because I mean, it's obvious what do you use for white liquid? Yeah, I mean, milk, but because I think on the documentary he talks about how it was kind of disgusting because he had to have some of it in his mouth because when they turn it on his head, when his head's on the table, which by the way I love when you watch it, if you're watching it really closely and they're trying to like balance the fake head, and then when it cuts back to him and it's the real head but he's under the table,
it's almost there.
But he starts gargling up the liquid, the white blood, I suppose you want to call it that. Like, you know, like he says he had to have all this in his mouth so he could start gargling it as it was coming out, and I'm like,
yeah, there's a weird connection to Westworld that I didn't think about till now.
Yeah, the milk, yeah.
Milky blood.
Yeah, I wonder if that was even like a homage to Alien, that decision.
Maybe.
Yeah, could have been. Although the Westworld hosts do have like more kind of like, because when you see inside them at one point, they do actually have like cogs and gears and they're more traditional robot parts. They just also have the milk.
Milk blood. Yeah.
Well, it's not even milk blood because they don't bleed that. They're just made in it.
Yeah.
So.
Well, don't they also, they use it though. It's like their lubricant or something for their machinery.
Sure, but they still bleed red though.
Yeah, but I've always thought of that as like an extra layer just to make it look real.
Yeah. Okay. Fair. Super dark stuff. So we were down to 3 characters. But you know, but I think it's interesting when they talk to Ash, he does kind of say that, you know, for what it's worth, he's like, I don't even think he says sorry. He just says it's unfortunate. You know, and they don't have a good chance. Like their chances are not good. Like this thing is perfect and. And I guess that's the other element of it because he kind of admires it, right? He says that at one point, even at the top of it just being kind of clear that he does admire it. And I wonder if the phallic part of like trying to shove the magazine down our throat is trying to emulate the face hugger.
I don't know.
No? Okay.
I don't know. Like maybe this isn't a part that registers with me as obvious. Like I really have to reach for it to make sense.
Yeah. Well, I think it raises a lot of questions that make you think, and I think that's maybe the purpose of it more than anything.
Sure.
So we have these 3, and of course, I mean, Parker and Lambert basically go together. They're off on their own doing something. The alien shows up. They don't stand a chance. You know, Lambert kind of breaks down.
I love Lambert's reaction too. She just kind of turns around. She's like, she knows it's done.
Yeah.
That's it. It's over.
Yeah. Oh, we haven't even talked about the scene where after Kane first comes back on board, they're watching him through the window and Lambert shows up and just slaps the shit out of Ripley because how dare she not let them on. They're like, this is the emotion.
Right.
Proper smack. But you know, so I think what always impresses me, or at least not this viewing so much because I'd remembered it from the last time, but the last time I watched this, I remember being surprised at just how much of the runtime at the end is just Ripley on her own. There's a good 20 minutes at the end of the movie, 25 even, where she's on her own, and obviously I love the shot of the alien looking through the cat cage, looking at the cat, and then Ripley's choice because she's running about this, you know, and I'll talk about this a bit more when we get to Aliens, but there's definitely a lot of what I love about the Resident Evil video games that come from Alien and Aliens, and one of them is the self-destruct timer at the end, and like the lights like spinning and the smoke all going, and like this will self-destruct in 5 minutes, like, you know, like all of that is, you know, it's all in Resident Evil as well. But I love like the decision to go back and get the cat is like, okay, if you didn't love Ripley already, if you weren't sympathetic to her already, this is the moment where, okay, no, you're going to root for her because she saved the goddamn cat.
In retrospect, after watching Aliens and after watching the special edition of Aliens, so you have that Ripley as a mother character and her choosing to go back and save the cat to help the innocent that can't help itself right now. I think that adds more to that in Alien after you've watched Aliens, and specifically the special edition.
I guess that's true. I mean, no one watches the theatrical cut of Aliens anymore. The special edition's been the default one for the last like 25 years. I think you're good to just assume that we're including that. I mean, I never really thought about it that way. I have this weird thing where I don't. For the most part, I don't really like let the sequels affect the previous movies. As weird as that sounds, which helps for when it's a bad sequel, admittedly.
Which helps for Prometheus, but like.
But no, you've got a point. You've got a point. I never really think about it in Alien though.
Well, Aliens has done such a good job expanding on what
it does. No, it does.
Is in. I mean, we get a lot of details in Alien, but it's Aliens that really explores those details. Yeah,
no, that's good. So I love all that. I love this because she has to like go and get a couple of things or like finish preparing to like launch the shuttle, and she's going to like turn off the self-destruct, but she can't, and it's like, oh shit, no, I have to get this done now in this time, and she just gets to the shuttle and you think it's all over. Like I say, I love the shot of the alien looking at the cat like through the cage. It's such a moment. Cats. Yeah, it's just a little moment of the head tilting like. So confused. There's a curiosity in the alien that there's kind of a character moment for it that you don't see otherwise. It's just this little moment of curiosity of like, what is this? This thing's too small to do anything with. So, but so she gets on the shuttle, blasts off, and we get this great, the entire like the stromal blows up. It's this wonderful blinding light and.
I don't love this effect.
No? Don't like it?
Not really. I think this effect really doesn't hold up very well.
That's fair.
And it's fine that there are multiple explosions, but it's also kind of confusing as to why there are multiple explosions.
That's just off the era.
It does make it feel like it's a really big ship.
Yeah, that's because it's of the era though. Like I feel like everything that exploded in the movies at that time always had at least 3 explosions. Like it was just of the time.
Like supernovas.
I feel like for me, I'm so used to how this looks that it's just how it looks.
I think the actual explosion scene doesn't really hold up very well for me. I like the effect of the light on Ripley. When she's like, but then we get it like 2 more times. Like, sure, right, that's a lot.
Yeah, and you get obviously you think everything's okay, but of course the alien's stuck aboard the ship, and Ripley's
our final girl in her underpants.
Yeah, those underpants are
barely holding up.
I know. I don't know, like what a design nonsense that was. I don't get it, but I love
just expose half the butt cheek or that butt crack.
But I love that it's sleeping. I love that, like, as an animal, it does sleep. Like it's not always on the prowl, and I dig that the cat's already safe in the sleeping pod, which is good news. But I love this slow, like her like slowly try to put on the spacesuit, right, quietly, not to disturb it, and then. The ultimate plan is to just blow it outside, but it sort of latches on to part of the ship, so it's sort of dangling, and she ends up burning it in the engine, like in the thruster. Like that's how it ultimately gets killed.
Yeah, it seems like it may come back aboard somehow for a brief second. Like, oh come on, no! It blew it out into space, and it's still going to come back on the ship. Yeah.
Which is actually kind of a big deal that it can survive in space. This is a vacuum. I mean, that kills most things. Most pretty much everything we know of can't exist in a vacuum.
It's the perfect weapon. But also it is like intergalactic, and there's no reason why it should be, because it is just an animal. It's not like an alien, like I mean, it has some intelligence, but it's not making its own ships. It's just a parasite that's intergalactic. So I imagine it would have survival skills like that.
Yeah, okay.
You would have to have some kind of adaptation for it. And it's it's also the perfect weapon. Perfect.
Why do you keep saying it that way? I feel like you're making fun of Prometheus.
A little bit. I don't like that movie. I watched it like 4 times trying to like say, okay, you're going to like this time. There's just something you missed, and that's why. And then 30 minutes into it, I'm like, I hate this.
I know this is going to be hard to believe, but trust me, Covenant's worse.
I don't. I'm not looking forward to it. I skipped it.
Just you wait for the scene. Just you wait for the you blow, I'll do the fingering. Just you wait for that scene.
I mean, it sounds like an okay scene.
Oh my god, that would be so bad. No, this stuff is great. She makes her final log. She does a recording. You know, this is the last survivor of the Nostromo, all that stuff. And this is her ending, and I think
cue the romance music.
It feels like such a journey for Ripley. And I think part of what makes the movie work is that it is so simple, really, when you think about it. Like, they get picked off one by one. It's like, okay, we have to just like abandon the ship, and you know that's ultimately what works. It's just every single step of the way. It's really hard and it's really dangerous because this thing is there and you don't know where it is, and it might just jump out and kill you. That's the essence of what makes it work.
Like Michael Myers or in space, in a way. It's very much a slasher movie.
In a lot of ways it is, but like I said earlier on, like, it takes it and it treats it like it's something to respect, and it's not going to just like half-ass some of it because it's a goofy B movie. No, every facet of the production, whether it be the design, the music, the acting, the direction, the pacing, all of it has to be treated like we're making a real movie and we're going to make it the best we possibly can. And I think it's true with Halloween, it's true with Jaws. These are B movie concepts that are treated with A movie skill, and that's why they hold up as being the best examples of those things.
And I think that's a real challenge with science fiction. I mean, we're bound to watch a ton of really poorly made science fiction movies where I think they're more concentrated on, like, let's make sure that people know that this is the future. So we're going to watch, like, I don't know, movies that take the science fiction part of it and make that the focus and not the characters that are the focus, you know? And this movie takes science fiction as a setting, but we're still following real people. And I think those are the types of science fiction movies that we ultimately end up calling masterpieces.
Yeah, but at the same time, though, I think you have to acknowledge that the characters in this aren't actually that strong in terms of, like, they're not characters with arcs. They're not characters that we get to know a lot about. They're good in the sense that they feel real, but I think that's what's part of it so impressive about it, and why it feels kind of like a slasher movie, and that they're not deep characters. Like, it's like, you know, we talk about the Terminator, and we you know, a lot of that review was us talking about how great Sarah Connor's arc is, and how it's this story of someone who changes and all these things, and Ripley does get that in the next movie.
She does, but she was right in the beginning and she's right at the end. And she survived because of it.
Yeah, so it's not really an arc. Not. I mean, what little of an arc is her becoming the real leader, but even that's really thin. And this is not a critique of the movie.
As a leader, all of her shipmen died, but
that's true. But,
except for Jonesy.
But what I'm saying is that it's actually impressive that despite the fact that it doesn't have these stories for its characters, or at least its main character, it doesn't actually matter. In the end, it actually helps the movie because it helps it feel like all these are just real people who are just caught up in this situation, as opposed to being a traditional movie with a character who has an arc. And you know, other movies do that. Even Aliens does that. Aliens has the arc, and it's part of why Aliens again feels like a great expansion, because Alien keeps it so simple, and then Aliens does the more complex version of all the ideas in a way that is really satisfying because it expands upon them all. But for the first time, it's so simple. It's why Halloween is so good. Like, I mean, there's a little bit of an arc for Laurie Strode, but not much. Like, but for the most part, it's really simple. It's a bunch of babysitters,
story,
are getting killed by this masked man who is barely a man anymore. He's the shape of a man, hence the shape. Like, it keeps it really simple. And I think when it comes to these genre ideas, like, I love when it's kept simple. I love when it's just a pure idea, but done with the skill to make it just sing off the screen.
Yeah. Well, I think you're right. I think that is a really strong part of the film, is that it is a very simple movie or a simple idea. But what we love and what's not so simple is just the setting, the details that has been put into the world, this world building. You have to create a creature, another alien's design of a ship, and a future for humanity that's unfamiliar to us, but seems plausible.
Yeah,
also.
And just casually introducing the fact that, oh yeah, androids exist in this world. Like two-thirds out of the movie. Yeah. Which again, I think the reason why that works so well is because the movie's so organic, like all the designs being phallic and organic, and everything's about a life cycle, and everything's about gestation and birthing and mothers and all this stuff. And all of a sudden you introduce the opposite of that. You introduce a robot, an appliance, a thing that was built in a lab or in a factory. Like it's just the opposite, right? Like if natural or organic things are stuff that mothers create, then Ash is what men built, right? And you've got there's an interesting kind of duality there that they can play with, and that's really cool. So everything.
Should we tell the people what our rating is?
I mean, I don't think anyone's going to be surprised at the numbers that we're about to get, because I've got a funny feeling that both of us are going to give it the same number. But Tara, if you would like to go first.
Well, believe it or not, I think this movie's a 10. Yeah, I mean, this is why we love the genre, right? This is what you hope to get from a science fiction movie, something that is just so, I hate to use the word alien, but something that's so alien, this is something that had to be created that could, I don't know, like something you fear in space, the unknown. And
what's so funny is that,
go ahead.
I feel like science fiction for me, like if I was to define what I like about science fiction, I wouldn't even necessarily describe Alien first. Like I would describe, like, I love science fiction that gives me concepts and ideas that say a lot about humanity. I don't think that's what this movie really is. This is a different type of science. This is like, it just puts me...
I don't think that. I mean, a lot of science fiction is allegory.
I'm not saying it needs to be that. I'm saying that this movie is not the first thing I think of when I think of. I think of Alien pretty quickly when I think of sci-fi. I'm not saying I don't, but I'm saying that if I think of just the pure concepts of science fiction, I think of, like, stuff that Star Trek does, where it makes me think about people, and makes me think about the way two factions will interact with each other, or whatever, right? Alien is the other side of science fiction, where it's about putting me in a scenario of atmosphere, and it's kind of, again, going back to why I love the Resident Evil games and why the movies are complete trash, is because the game makes me feel like I'm in that world. It makes me feel like I'm in a mansion filled with zombies, where there was this lab underground that made these this weird virus that did this. It makes me feel like I'm there, no matter how goofy it kind of is.
Right.
It makes me feel like I'm in that, and Alien does that. Alien makes me feel like I'm in this world.
Right, and I mean, that's what I mean when I say, like, this is what we hope for when we watch a science fiction movie. Like, sure, we're not getting a whole lot about humanity in this case, but we hope that people take science fiction as a genre seriously.
Oh, yeah.
And create worlds that are believable and livable, and something that is real and never before seen. And I don't think anything even really comes close to the design of what we get here in science fiction. And I think Alien is the top when it comes to, like, strange worlds and unknown in space. And
despite what I just said, like, the world building's so good, and it introduces stuff like the android, and like all the stuff we talked about with the birthing and the nature versus the organic versus the organic and natural versus synthetic and so on. Like, even though I don't think it is saying something the way a lot of science fiction very in your face does, it's so thick and layered in its world building and in these small ways that you can actually almost get there anyway, and sort of start talking about what an android represents with the other things in the movie, what the life cycle is, and the fact that like we talk about how it's the man being impregnated, and the sexual like act of aggression that is, and all these things. Like, even though it's maybe not like super thought provoking, there is still some in there if you really it's still doing it. And yeah, so it's a 10. Yeah, I give it a 10 too. Is what I was building up to there.
Big surprise.
10 out of 10.
We have a holiday around this movie, of course.
Exactly. Yes. Exactly. It is nigh on perfect, and it's for me this is more important than Star Wars, and that's, I mean, it's not just because I'm not as big a Star Wars fan as other people are, but
I love A New Hope. But yeah, I am a Star Wars fan, but I I do think this is better.
Yeah, you do. Yeah. Yeah. And that is why Tara's my co-host and not that awful person, Connor, who's...
We will have to do the Star Wars movies one day, and I'm looking forward to it. But yeah.
Someday.
I feel a little bit bad that means Connor's not going to do them, but I'm pretty sure that's the only reason you agreed to do Star Wars.
I think it's hilarious. I don't want to talk to Connor about Star Wars. I'll just be annoyed. Yes, Alien.
I do own a lightsaber. I built it myself.
Don't remind me. Don't tell people this. Don't do it.
I know. I usually wait till I don't know, maybe year 3 before I admit that. But...
Yeah. So no, Alien is wonderful, and it's such a fundamental building block of everything I love about movies and everything I love about cinema.
Mm-hmm.
I like it is a measuring stick, unfairly almost to a lot of other movies of which they are measured.
Well, a lot of movies take from Alien.
They do,
or just straight up copy it.
So no, it's a big deal that we finally got to do Alien, and I'm looking forward to next year getting to do Aliens, because Alien is a perfect movie. Aliens is my favorite movie of all time, meaning that I think Aliens is somehow even better. But admittedly, that's down to just taste, because they're both 10s, right? I'll just say it right now. I mean, I gave this a 10. Obviously, I'm going to rate the next one a 10 if I just give them what I just said.
The only way you can make Alien better is if you add Bill Paxton.
One express elevator hell.
Going down.
Right, we need to save the Aliens quotes, because we're just going to do all nothing but Aliens quotes next year. So,
okay.
Good stuff. All right, Alien is written off the list. It's done. We've checked that.
Happy Alien Day, everybody.
Happy Alien Day. It is the fundamental classic, and this show would definitely not exist if Alien never happened. So
that's what the A stands for.
Yes.
Oh, never mind. Atomic.
No. I mean, I'm willing to retcon it. It can be the Alien. What movie do we like to begin with C? It's a sci-fi movie.
Oh, it's Cocoon, a sci-fi movie.
I guess.
They all go back in age.
It's the Alien Clockwork.
Ah.
The Alien Clockwork. Ex Machina. I don't know.
And it's better than I could come up with.
I don't know. Yeah. But yes. That is Alien. Obviously, feel free to also tell us how much you love Alien in the comments.
If you don't like it, then just don't say anything.
Yes, what's wrong with you? And you could of course, guys, on the Twitters at mail_fuzz or at the Ace Podcast. You can, of course, ding the bell on YouTube. All these things do help us, as does rating the podcast on Apple Podcasts. Give us 5 stars and a review. More people will find us that way. We mentioned Patreon earlier, patreon.com/MailFuzzTV if you want to support us financially, so do that too. Is there anything else I want to say? I mean, I guess generally plugging other content. Tara, would you like to recommend anything else that we do?
No, not really.
No. Not even the one you're on? No?
Oh, yeah. You can check out the Twilight Zone reviews. We're working through... the classic Twilight Zone right now. We're on season 2.
Uh-huh.
I think we're like midway, maybe a third. I don't know. But yeah, we have all of season 1 done, so you can check out what we think about that. Watch along with us. It's been a real treat going back and rewatching those. Yeah. Check that out. Weekly.
Yes. Yes, weekly. Yes, I will throw on this the horror movie podcast, kind of the companion podcast to this, Screams After Midnight, that I did with Tim. We do lots of movies. We're working through many a franchise on that. Unfortunately, stuff like Leprechaun, which Tim loves, and a delusional way.
I like that franchise.
Yeah, but you don't like it as much as Tim's like I won't even say it as much as Tim likes it, as much as Tim pretends he likes it on the reviews.
Yeah, those are pretty fun to listen to. Actually, you should check those out.
Oh my god. Anyway, that is us. That is our alien discussion. Wasn't quite the full 2 hours I was expecting it to be, but it was like an hour 45 or something like that. I will guarantee you Aliens is going to be even longer than this. Not just because not just because it's my favorite movie, but it's got even more going on in what it's doing.
And Bill Paxton. We're just going to be quoting his lines.
And Michael Biehn and Lance Henriksen, and like the movie's packed with things. Paul Reiser's even in there.
I know.
It's a bad call, Ridley.
He'd be such a good choice.
I know.
He's a comedy actor.
Well, what's weird is though it was the opposite at the time, because this was before he did all of his comedy stuff in Aliens.
He did a movie called Diner, which was kind of a comedy. Well, it's a comedic drama.
True. Yeah, but it was before Mad About You. It was before, that was his big thing.
I think he was still a comedian, though.
Was he? Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I think so.
Fair enough. I'll take your word for it. But here we are. So yeah, that has been Atomic Cinema Experiment. We're deep into the 50s. We may have hit 60 by now. I don't know, because we're recording this obviously.
We did all those 70s sci-fi. I'm not quite sure what are those numbered?
Yeah, they're numbered. The last one that went up, or the one that's went up early today for patrons at the time of recording, was Demon Seed, and I believe that was episode 56. So Alien, is this episode 60? I mean, it's around 60. It may not be 60. Could be 59, could be 61, but something there.
Well, it's still special because it came out on Alien Day.
Yes, it is. Of course it's special. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what number it is. It's Alien.
It's Alien. Special 426.
But I will say we do have some fun stuff planned in the next coming months. I'll just briefly tease this because of course we were doing time travel movies sort of sporadically over the last year or so. We've got one big time travel franchise that we've not done yet. And that's coming soon, and when we're done with that, we'll be doing our top 10 time travel movies of all time. So.
Finally going to finish that Transfer saga.
I don't think we're going to have that finished, but maybe for June when the list comes out, we'll do the fourth Transfers movie.
Here's hoping.
Oh God! So thank you very much once again for watching or listening. We always appreciate it. Keep watching science fiction, guys. And computer, what are our chances of survival?
Signing off.